good people?
Hey, welcome to Growing Up Lowcountry. I'm Liz.
I'm Danny, and this is been a long time coming. You know, I had her on my podcast since we last spoke, and it got such great feedback that a lot of our friends were asking, so when are y'all going to do your own podcast together? And here it is, Growing Up Lowcountry. And first off, Tropical Storm Debbie is rolling through here and just leaving just a mess over across the Lowcountry.
It's a good day to be a duck.
Yeah, no kidding. They're calling for upwards of 20 inches of rain. I'm not looking forward to that.
No, but I mean, we've seen worse. It could be worse.
Yeah, I hope it's not like it was back in 2015. That was something. But growing up Lowcountry, you know, we'll start from the beginning. The Downtown Charleston. What was your first experience going downtown Charleston?
Well, I probably don't remember my first experience because I was born down there in Roper Hospital.
You a Roper baby too?
Yes.
How about that? Yes, same.
But we didn't go down a whole lot. You know, it was just you didn't really do much above Calhoun back in the day. And then Hugo hit in '89, and then they anchored Charleston Place Hotel, and then everything kind of started. That was sort of the epicenter for tourism and restaurants, and we did Spoleto.
Oh, yeah.
We would go down for Spoleto events, Piccolo, Spoleto. And back in the day, people would stay with Charlestonians and local folks. They didn't stay in hotels because they were poor artists, and a lot of great relationships sprung up from those times.
I didn't know they stayed with locals.
Yeah.
Man, that's like Airbnb before Airbnb. Man, they were really ahead of the curve with that.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to downtown Charleston because we never really ventured downtown like that because, you know, my dad was really apprehensive to the abundance of one-way streets that were downtown. So we normally didn't go past Charlestown Square. But I remember the first time we went downtown as a family, there was a circus one Sunday at the Gilliard Auditorium, and that was a lot of fun. They had the big metal ball on stage, and the people were just like doing loop-de-loops in the motorcycles. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And there was a lady on stage that swallowed the fire. I thought that was just mind blowing to my 7-year-old brain. Then the second time we went downtown was actually on a field trip when I was in 5th grade. My mom was a chaperone. This was Mr. Muse's class. And I don't even remember the reason why we went downtown, but I didn't care because we weren't at school. So I remember the class, we were walking down Meeting Street, and we were getting towards the end to the corner of Meeting and Broad. And right before you get to Meeting and Broad, the last street that's on the left is Chalmers Street. It's still a cobblestone roadway. And as we're passing Chalmers, I look down there and I see a hot dog stand in real life. And I immediately broke from the pack and made a beeline to the hot dog stand. It's kind of like how when Monterey Jack was on Rescue Rangers and he would get that whiff of cheese and he'd get that vortex effect in his eyes and he'd float over to the cheese. Had the same effect on me with the hot dog stand because at that time, the only time I'd ever seen a hot dog stand was in the movies, or specifically a movie that took place in NYC. So I thought hot dogs were strictly a New York City thing. So I just had 1,000 questions for him. I got the hot dog. It was great. And then I'm just like, are you from New York City? You know, how much money do you make? Do you get a lot of customers? You know, just being real intrusive inquisitive, but at the same time, looking back, I was being very intrusive with the questions, and he couldn't have been nicer. He answered all my questions, and then I got my hot dog, made my way back down Meeting, and got to the corner of Meeting and Broad, and there were no classmates there, and had a full stomach and just brain in absolute panic mode. Yeah. So it was a search mission for the next hour and a half. And I'm just freaking out. And eventually I make my way back to the hot dog stand, and hopefully they'll make their way back to me. And then about an hour and a half later, I hear Mom's voice off in the distance, and then I yell, "Mom, I'm right here, I'm right here." She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I found you." And boy, that ride home, it was a completely different story. But
kind of siding with your mama on this.
Yeah, I completely understand. You know, the last thing you want to do as a parent is lose your child, especially in the city setting like that. And then the third time I went to downtown Charleston, we went to a monster truck rally at Johnson Haygood Stadium. And that was cool because I got to see Gravedigger for the first time. And that was one of the highlights of my year right there. So, go ahead.
So we didn't leave Moncks Corner that often because we had circus entertainment.
Oh, that's right.
Because I don't know if you remember in the TGNY parking lot, we sold, the Rotary Club sold Vidalia onions, so I'd have to sit out there in a metal chair in July selling Vidalia onions. But the good part is that probably the same circus that was downtown would send like one cart up there and charge 25 cents for you to go see the bearded lady or the huge snake that they had in this cage. And then, I mean, you'd be passing the whole day there, so you got to know the bearded lady, and then she'd let you go look at that snake for free. So it was quality entertainment.
Yeah.
Why leave?
Yeah, especially at that age. Man. Yeah. So keeping it Lowcountry, and you can't talk about the Lowcountry and not talk about notable legends from the Lowcountry. And we were talking about this in pre-production, and the first person that came to mind was Sonny Goldberg, the furniture maven himself.
Yeah.
Sonny Goldberg.
And his commercials. I mean, the earworm is stuck in your brain.
Yes.
40 years later.
Yes.
Quality marketing. Hat tip, sir. Good job.
Yes. They call me the King Street Singer because I sing whenever I'm blue. And if you should be feeling lonely, then I recommend it for you. You may not be Michael Jackson or Prince or Billy Joel or Sting, but you'll feel so much better in the morning if you just open up your mouth and sing. Go Sonny, go Sonny, go burn, go Sonny. Oh man, yeah, that was an incredible commercial. This is forever embedded in my memory.
Yeah, and probably high quality, low cost recliners.
Yeah,
and other furniture goods.
Yep, you need a little SPS. And I'll never forget. At the end of the commercial, it would say "Closed Sunday for Sabbath observance," and I didn't realize what that meant. And then I asked my mom, like, "Why are they closing? What's Sabbath observance?" She was like, "He's Jewish." I'm like, "Oh, okay, see, I get it."
Dropping little knowledge tidbits.
Yeah. So and then he also had another furniture. Well, I'd say it was like a furniture competitor. On that same strip was a Metropolitan Furniture Company. It was a black guy by the name of Clarence Don't Turn Nobody Down McCants. And he was at the Metropolitan Furniture Company, 501 King Street. And I remember both of their commercials would play right after each other during the 11 o'clock news.
Yep. Yeah. And I think they did all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's prime real estate right there.
Right.
Being on King Street. And you can't mention Lowcountry legends and not mention Mama from Mama's Used Cars. So what do you remember the most about Mama?
Well, she seemed old, like for 40 years.
She really did.
But she did actually live to be at least 100.
Yeah, she was 101 when she passed away. She seemed like she had like cotton white hair our entire life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she played it up. She played that part, and she had a good shtick with that guy. I can't remember his name, but I think her name in real life was she an Armstrong?
Libby Armstrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you'd see her around town, and then she'd play up her role and like make you feel good about seeing Mama.
Yeah.
Out in the wild.
So we also talked about our first job. So what was your first job?
C&D Jewlers in Moncks Corner, helping people pick out their herringbone gold chains. Did a lot of the charm bracelet selections, and they did piercing there. I was not qualified to pierce anybody, but I would help, calm them down or get them excited to get a piercing. Yeah. I mean, it was a after school situation. And this was my first like show up, get a paycheck job instead of babysitting, which I did a lot of.
Yeah.
At a very, very young age, which I don't even know if that's legal these days. You could leave an 8-year-old in charge of 5 to 7 children.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember my first job was at the Berkeley County Summer Feeding Program, and to this day, that's still the most fun job I've ever had. Just being able to work with my friends from high school, and like working with Deshaun Carter and working with Jimmy Whaley and Jennifer McCall and Yusha Gilmore, especially Yusha, because her crazy ass used to always just come up with the most crazy songs. She had I think her and Jennifer had a song called Meat and Potatoes. And she's just like, I know you really want some. You should meat and potatoes. And they would be in the kitchen, putting the sandwich meat together and stuff. And then my job was to pack up the lunches once they came through the assembly line, and then just stack them up and store them in the refrigerated trailers. And then eventually I graduated from that to getting my own delivery route, which was a lot of fun. My route, I was on basically at the Highway 17 corridor. So we'd leave Moncks Corner, go through 402. Actually, no, it wasn't 402. We would cut through Jamestown to Highway 45 out to McClellanville. So my route was basically from McClellan. We started McClellanville, and then we'd end our route in Mount Pleasant. Like right there where 17 and 41 meet, at Greater Goodwill AME Church. And we worked every day my work hours were from 6 to 2. So that was a lot of fun, just going out and about and traveling and dropping off lunches and going to the different churches and just meeting so many great people from that corridor. But another job that I had, which I can't remember which guidance counselor hooked me up with this job, but it was an after-school job my 11th grade year. I was washing cars at Burdette Chrysler Dodge, and I was a first-hand witness to the mystique that was Wayne Burdette, who owned the dealership. If you know his commercials, his catchphrase at the end was always, "Cars like eggs, they're cheaper in the country." And seeing him in person, he was a weirdo. I would just put it that way. He was a bona fide weirdo. He was very aloof. If you go into his office, like all 4 walls from the floor to the ceiling was just literally just nothing but Elvis memorabilia. It was something. It was just a lot of Elvis, and his office always smelled like cigarettes. I was like, yeah, he's a cold piece of work. And he had matter of fact, had the Elvis jacket, like the leather Elvis jacket that he would wear on the job.
Moonlighting as an impersonator, perhaps.
Might be. But yeah, those were the 2 biggest memories I had as far as my jobs growing up. Yeah. And another thing that occurred in the Lowcountry that a lot of people can relate to, speaking of tropical storms, well, this one is more of a bigger than tropical storm, but Hurricane Hugo, Category 4 storm that tore through the Lowcountry back in September of 1989. What do you remember the most about Hurricane Hugo?
I remember us all huddling up downstairs, and in the middle of the storm, when the eye came over, we opened the door and a tree came through the front door, and then just waking up that next morning, and you just were so discombobulated, because if a helicopter had dropped you in the middle of that, you wouldn't know where you were, even if you're in your own backyard. Every tree was down. My uncle came down with a generator, and there was like the price gouging you had to navigate and stuff.
Oh man, yes.
And they have laws against that I don't know what the deal was, if they didn't have those laws back then or they weren't being enforced, but that changed a lot of stuff moving forward. And snake balls and ant balls. So a snake ball is a bunch of snakes that cling to each other because there's so much standing water, and they've been run out of their homes by the hurricane. And then an ant ball is the same thing with ants. And we were 9, but we just had free range and just out there running, and we would take baths in the lake. And we didn't get our electricity back for about a month, I think. But
wow.
Yeah. And I know out in Long Ridge, y'all had a lot of trees to cut through.
Yeah, we did. I remember, similar to you, everybody else was sleeping during the storm, and then when I was the only one that was wide awake during the whole thing, and I'm just hearing that howling wind was just freaking me out. But then when the eye passed through, I went outside, and it was just super quiet. Like if you looked up, you could see stars. Mm-hmm. It looked like nothing happened. And then I woke up the next day, and the sun was out, but you could just smell just that pungent smell of the pine, all the snap pine trees. It was like God just unscrewed the biggest bottle of pine salt and just dumped it on Long Ridge. That's a smell that I'll never erase. That will never be erased from my memory. And we were without power for about a month and a half. And I remember we had well water, so when people were in a pinch, they would come to our house with buckets and stuff, and we were able to supply the community with water. That's huge. And I remember the 18-wheeler came to our neighborhood, just dropping off supplies and clothing and stuff. And that was my first introduction to powdered milk. My first and last introduction to powdered milk, because we were a big Frosted Flakes family growing up. And especially Dad, he was a stickler with his Frosted Flakes. And he was like, oh, get the powdered milk. Yeah, I can use that with my Frosted Flakes. And man, it tasted terrible, and it really did a number on our gastrointestinal system. I'll just say that. And Dad was like, man, this is one of the worst decisions I ever made.
A waste of perfectly good Frosted Flakes.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, those are my biggest memories from Hurricane Hugo. Matter of fact, all of the specials they had for Hurricane Hugo from the local channels, all of them are on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
I was like, wow. I sat one weekend and literally watched like the one from Channel 5, the one from Channel 4, and the one from Channel 2. I was like, man, this brings back so many great memories. Oh man, and especially the thing that you remember Rescue 911 did an episode of Hurricane Hugo?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that freaked me out because the story that they did was about when it flooded real bad at Lincoln High School in McClellanville. And I was like, man, even though we had it bad, they really had it like exponentially worse.
Actually, a child in my daughter's class, her mama was one of the children they were holding up on.
Really?
Yeah, she told me that story.
Wow.
A couple of years ago. It was terrifying.
Yeah. So let's lighten the mood a little bit. So another thing in this common in the Lowcountry is gas station food. So what were?
Yum.
Yeah, no kidding. Man, people want to poo-poo gas station food, but look, more for me.
Yeah, and maybe you're at the wrong gas station.
Maybe. You ever thought about that? So what were your favorite gas station food items?
Pretty much anything fried. I will generally avoid the refrigeration section.
Yeah.
My favorite is boiled peanuts, and they are usually left to percolate and marinate for, I don't know, weeks.
Yeah.
But they soak up all that good flavor. And I like a good Dodge's chicken stock.
Absolutely. That Dodge's chicken right there on 17, like you're heading into Ravenel, is never steered me wrong, ever.
And it's a line. Like if you go at lunchtime, it's going to be a minute.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of I'm partial to the gizzards from Parker's and Spink's. I think Parker still may have the upper hand because both establishments season their gizzards well, but the thing is with Spink's, sometimes they over season it, and it takes the joy out of the experience of consuming those delicious gizzards.
Too salty.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but beef's like that sometimes.
The other thing you can get at a gas station is bait.
Yeah.
You know, like your worms or your crickets, which we should just maybe talk about etiquette on. It's self-serve for the cricket, which is a great deal because they don't charge you by the cricket. What are they going to do? Count all the crickets in your bucket? So you get to go and, if you can be patient, you can get a lot of crickets in a bucket. Now, crickets are gross.
Yeah, they stink.
It's disgusting. And they live in a basically open air cage in a gas station and make more crickets. And it's a pretty good business model.
Yeah.
But so then you have to go over, if you're the person who wants to buy the crickets, and get like a paper towel roll and whoop up your crickets and get them in your bucket. It's just a gross endeavor. But then you turn from there, and if you're like me, and then you realize, dang, I really want some boiled peanuts, then you go get the bowl. You want to go get the boiled peanuts, but you still have cricket hand. You know?
Yeah.
We need to change. You should get your peanuts first, or any other thing that you're going to eat and not feed to a fish. Get that first.
You don't like a little cross-contamination?
Oh, I don't. And I'm not even a huge stickler. But that's just, I like to be cognizant of how the germs work.
Fair enough.
And that's a little gross. But there are other delicious items in a gas station, and Country Corner is a good stop.
Yeah.
Used to be Handy Mart also in Mont's Corner. Had great ice cream.
Really? What was your go-to ice cream?
Cookies and cream.
Oh, yeah. You can't ever go wrong with cookies and cream.
Heavy on the cookie.
Heavy on the cookie.
And cream.
Yeah. And you had mentioned self-serve when you talked about crickets. It made me think of an old gas station in Monk's Corner that's no longer around called Peagler's. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't self-serve. And that's the one and only gas station I've ever witnessed I've had that particular business model. It's like when you pull up the Goodwill or drop the things off, and you run over that little rubber hose that makes the ding ding sound. They had that same rubber hose whenever you pulled up to the gas pump. So whenever that the hose would ding, Mr. Elijah Haynes would walk out. He'd walk to your car, and you would just hand him your money, and he would pump the gas for you. You could stay in your car, and while he was pumping the gas, and then he'd take the squeegee and clean your windshield. And shout out to Mr. Elijah Haynes. He's still alive and kicking. I see him at Country Corner every now and then.
That's awesome.
So shout out to him. Now let's get into some sports talk.
Okay.
Growing up in the Lowcountry, I know one of the biggest talk of the town sports wise in Charleston was the Charleston Rainbows. My biggest memory from them is going on field trips to the games when I was in Whitesville Elementary School. Right there at the corner of Rutledge, and I can't remember the other street, but the ballpark is still there, still holding on. And one of the coolest things to me was seeing Major League Baseball players literally get their start in Charleston. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Seeing, Sandy and Roberto Alomar there, and Carlos Baerga, and they went on to play for the Cleveland Indians. And Roberto Alomar had himself ended up being a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, I really got to see him play second base when I was in second grade.
Yeah.
Coolest thing ever. And then they became the Charleston River Dogs. And the interesting thing with how the River Dogs got their ballpark, which is Joseph P. Riley Park, which is a beautiful ballpark right there on the banks of the Ashley River. That tract of land that they wanted belonged to the Citadel, and the Citadel said, "We'll give you that land to build a new ballpark on, but if you make this agreement with us, if you agree to this proposition, we'll give you the land if you allow the Citadel to play baseball at that ballpark with the River Dogs, and then in turn you give us your old ballpark, the ballpark to the Citadel, so they can practice." Mm-hmm. And the River Dogs said, "You have yourself a deal." So in 1994. Joseph P. Riley Jr. Ballpark was born. And River Dogs games, they're such a great experience. It's just good, cheap fun. Mm-hmm. The baseball team, they've won the league championship for the last 3 years now. But even more so than the baseball, they have great ballpark fare. So what was some of your favorite ballpark items?
I like the trash can nachos.
Oh, man, yes.
Or kitchen sink nachos.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff on a nacho base. And they have you can pick the mint or basil or cilantro right there. That was kind of forward thinking for a ballpark.
Yeah. Speaking of forward thinking, whoever was in charge of the food and bev at the time, I really dug his ambition, because one of my favorite ballpark items that I wish was still there was a burger with bacon and peanut butter and pepper jelly. Now, on paper, it sounds disgusting, but once I bit into it, it made all the sense in the world to me, and I wish they would bring that back. That was my A1 right there. And I remember they had shrimp and grits at one point. The shrimp and grits, they were okay. You could tell the shrimp. I mean, it's mass produced. Yeah, the shrimp wasn't local, but I'm a stickler with my shrimp and grits, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's always a good time at the River Dogs games.
Yeah, they've got really good promotions too.
Yeah,
like
they do.
Fireworks Fridays. You can bring your dog certain days.
Thirsty Thursday.
Yeah, Mike Veck, I think, is that how you pronounce his last name? So he's straight out of the White Sox dynasty, and I didn't realize they were the first. The White Sox were the first ones to have a box at the stadium.
Really?
Yeah. So they had all these great ideas. There's a really cool Netflix special on Mike Veck, and
really,
about his. It's mostly about his relationship with his daughter.
Okay.
She had a lot of health issues, and how they built the dynasty at the White Sox, and it wasn't all about baseball. It was all about the experience and having good, wholesome fun, and fun is good is kind of their theme. And it's true. It's great.
Yeah. So, there's good things about the Lowcountry, but there's also some unsavory things about the Lowcountry as well. So what would you put on your unsavory list?
On surface area, surfacey, unsavory would be traffic.
Oh yeah. 100%.
When we were coming up, you just said, point A is so many minutes away from point B. And usually it was like 15. And now the minutes are a lot.
Yeah.
And we got folks moving to Somerville thinking they're at the beach. And I hate to tell you, that's going to be like 2.5 hours minimum. And then you hadn't even found a parking spot yet. So
yeah, that's a good point.
But what about you?
Man, the heat. The heat. I got to piggyback on what you said about the traffic. Specifically, I'm looking at you, 526. I mean, it's like 2:30, 3 p.m. and it's still. I mean, it's like a long ass line of traffic just at a standstill. I'm just like, ugh.
And not to harp, but let's put our phones down.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that hard. Stop running into each other.
Yeah.
Here we go, guys. We can do it.
Yeah,
come on,
help us out. Help us help you.
Together, we can do this.
Yes. But another thing I will put on my unsavory list is the heat. I lived here my entire life, and it's still not fun.
It's a different kind of heat.
Yeah, that humidity combined is. Ugh. Yeah,
but I will say I had a out of town guest traveling here from Europe last week, and I mean, they were overcome and overwrought by the heat. The heat was a lot, but we biked around a little bit and went to some restaurants, and they got to experience the city. And it kind of reminds you of, hey, it is a destination. It's where people want to be, for better or worse.
Yeah.
So, it's just a good reminder that you live in a sought after spot.
Salient point. So, now let's talk about a common bond that we had growing up in the Lowcountry was the roller skating rink. And actually we had 2 roller skating rinks that really stood out. The first one was Stardust Skate Center, which, I mean, if you going down Rivers Avenue in North Charleston and you see that big ass roller skate that actually had the 4 wheels that you could drive, you were in the right place. And I spent many a Friday night at Stardust Skate Center with my friends. And I told the story on my other podcast, but I'll share it here as well. There was one particular Friday night where there was a girl that caught my eye. She basically looked like Candy Burris with braces. And I was 13 years old at the time. And her and her friends were already on the rink skating around. And I was with my friends. We were right there at the partition getting ready to make our way onto the rink. Mind you, I can't skate with a damn. But I laced up my skates. You know, that 13-year-old bravado is a dangerous drug. And I told my friends how I was going to approach her. I was like, once she gets around, I'm going to skate up to her and put my arm around her and be like, what's up, baby? And they're like, yeah, that's a great move. So I go to make the move. And as soon as I plant the first skate down, here come the cartoon feet. And I'm just tumbling and I fall face first. And when I get up, my nose is super bloody. Her and her friends are laughing at me. Everybody at the rink is laughing. That's on the rink is laughing at me. My friends help me up, and they take me back to the skate rental lady. And I was like, "Here's the skates, and do you have any ice and a towel I can put over my face, so I can hurry up and put this on my face and go in the arcade and tuck my tail until my parents come to pick me up." So yeah, that was pretty damn embarrassing. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah, and it wasn't like you could just call your parents.
Yeah,
you had like a time you had to wait.
Yeah,
so you just tucked your tail and waited.
Yep, and was sitting right next to Miss Pac-Man, licking my wounds. So how about you?
Birchador was the big one.
Oh yes, yes, right there in Goose Creek.
Had the big fan, a lot of birthday parties there.
Yep.
And there was like a low ceiling area, and then you went out into the big area, and I could go all day. I just had a lot of trouble with stopping. I got to run into something to stop, and you had to make that turn in the end, or else you would go into one of those huge industrial fans.
Yeah.
And it seemed like you would just be chopped to smithereens.
Yeah, I wasn't good at going or stopping.
Well, and they had a few arcade games there too. That was cool.
Yeah, they did.
And I mean that place just kept going and going. How many years do you think it was there?
Man, it's been quite a while. At least 20.
Yeah.
I remember we used to go there once a month to skate when I was in Boy Scouts. And I don't know why I remember this, but the DJ always loved playing Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys for some reason.
That's true. That's a good skating song.
Yeah. Giddy up, boom, bop, boom, bop, mow, mow. Yeah, my Scoutmasters love the Oak Ridge Boys. That's another story for another day. And then, keeping it in Goose Creek, there was a place where all the little kids go for birthday celebrations called Track Stars.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and them animatronic creatures. Yeah, that
it was just a rat.
That rat
on a track that had a tray, and it would bring you either the cake or the pizza, depending on what point of the party you were in.
Yep.
And there was a guy behind a one-way glass. Couldn't see him, but he was speaking on behalf of the rat, but it sounded like it was coming out of the rat. So that rat would pull up with your cake and say, "Happy birthday, Liz." And you'd be like, "What?
Yeah.
How does it know me? And how is this rat speaking? This is incredible." I mean, mind blown.
Yeah. And my friend, we had a birthday party at Track Stars, and he had the complete opposite reaction. The rat rolled up with the pizza, and he freaked the hell out. Like, "Happy birthday, Johnny!" He's like, and he just got up and just hauled ass out of the building.
I mean, you would think that we've been conditioned with Mickey Mouse, like animated rat.
You would think.
Just
That's
roll
a good
with
point.
it. Calm down. It's a rat talking to you.
Yeah, we're just celebrating your life. No need to. Yeah, just. Never mind this animatronic rodent bringing you the.
It's nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had skee ball. I love some skee ball. The air hockey.
I was never good at skee ball.
What, did you aim too high, or were you just consistent?
I aimed too high.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
You just got to go for consistency. I didn't tell you the other day at Folly Beach, I broke the record on the basketball shot.
Really?
Yep, 68.
Wow.
And now, I don't get too excited because I feel like they had recently unplugged it and we were starting to gain some momentum again. But
yeah,
that was definitely a highlight of my summer.
Absolutely. Oh, so now we're about to bring the show to a close. What was your biggest takeaway from this episode?
Well, I learned about your boss with Elvis. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not maybe my biggest takeaway, but it's something I learned that I did not know about you before.
Yeah, and you talking about the snack balls during Hurricane Hugo. I didn't know that they just congregated like that.
Well, be careful out here. We're getting a lot of rain today.
Yeah, that's true.
Encounter something, and then you'll know what to expect.
Yeah.
I don't know how you handle it. I think you just avoid it. Don't go towards the snake. Go away from the snake.
Go away from it. Sage advice.
Welcome.
Thank y'all for listening. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to Growing Up with Liz and Danny. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm at Danny Foxworth 843 on YouTube. There you can find the videos for the episodes for this podcast, as well as my other 2 podcasts, which are At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, which is a baseball podcast, and also Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. And Liz, this is only the beginning.
All right, here we go.
The ship has left the dock. And thank y'all for tuning in. This has been an absolute treat. Seriously.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to catch up with lifelong friends.
That's right.
And so until next time, y'all be good. We will talk to y'all later.